Good morning, Daniel, and good morning, Piper on the 45. Hey, Josh. Can you see my not so subliminal marketing? Evening, Jim. Ah, you received it. Good. Hey, Boris. I'm currently smoking my LCS, one of them, and in it I have some GLP's Regent's Flake. Now, somebody recommended this as I was exploring Orientals. And it's very nice. Very nice, gentle, easy, smooth. It's not the same, but it has similarities to Sunbear. It's not that far off. The sort of floral essence of the Orientals definitely coming through. Daniel, this is one of my recent pipes. It's pipe 210, which is sandblasted. It's a gorgeous pipe, really lovely craggy sandblast going all the way. You can actually see the straight grain through the sandblast. Very, very nice blast on this pipe. Gorgeous. Smooth rim. Acrylic Cumberland. It's a very nice pipe. And it's available if anybody wants it. And the piece of briar that I had a particularly long piece of briar, so I made use of it. Long shank, and I've sort of spread out the shank up here just to make an interesting shape. It's a Dublin, obviously, in terms of the bowl shape. But I just think it makes an interesting, different, unique kind of pipe, and it's just got a really, really nice sandblast. To be honest, I'm surprised it hasn't sold yet. Hey, tree. Good drilling. That'll make a fantastic smoking pipe. Whoever takes it eventually. And this one is a really nice chubby apple. Really nice grain. Good shaping. Really happy with that one. I think that one's a 2-star. It's got some great bird's eye. Dublin Lovat, I guess you could call it that. This is a carved pipe I made a while back. Pipe 207. Also got some really nice grain on the sides there. Smooth rim, again, Cumberland, acrylic Cumberland. Pipe worked out really, really well. Again, will be a fantastic smoking pipe. And finally, and I have more, but I decided just to put a few out. I have this little fella. Really nice brandy, I suppose you'd call it. Donald Hughes, howdy from Houston. Starting to see a lot more of me and you. Okay. Jeffrey Alton Carter. Hi, Jeffrey. Haven't seen you in a while. Piece of white heath tree into a flaming work of art. Well, they're certainly flaming once somebody puts a flame to it. I did succumb to some temptation. I took this pipe for myself. I smoked some Latakia blends in that. Nice pipe, this one. Smoked very, very well. And the website and the wood shop, Daniel. Well, the wood shop at the moment is, as you know, it's dismantled, and it will remain so for at least 2 weeks, I would have thought. And then I'll probably, because it's being used for family use over the next couple of weeks, and after that I hope I'll be able to be in a position to get enough timber and everything that I need to do in order to create a more organized workspace. Up to now, I've basically used whatever furniture I have. So I've used a folding table, which is my main table that you see me doing sanding on, and the finishing and the staining and so on. And then I have the actual rig which holds the lathe. That was actually a piece I ordered online, but you have to put it together yourself, which was fairly straightforward if you follow the instructions. And the rest is just the cobbled bits of furniture here and there. But it wasn't really an efficiently organized workspace. So what I want to do is essentially create workbenches around the perimeter of the garage, but not as deep as the table was. The table just completely took out most of the space, of the available space. So I want to make basically all around the perimeter of the workshop not as deep workbenches going all the way around, with a couple of spaces for possibly I feel that there's going to be certain machinery in the future. I'm not investing in them yet, but I could see myself at some point getting a floor standing bandsaw. And I could see myself in the future getting a metal lathe, but again, that's probably way in the future. I couldn't afford it now anyway. And at some point, a sandblaster. So I've got to have that kind of all in mind. I haven't got a huge workspace. I was considering taking down the wall which splits my garage in half. The rest of the garage is used for, and there's a big chest freezer in there, and that's basically storage for all the stuff that you accumulate over the years, which you don't want to throw away. I wouldn't call myself necessarily a hoarder, but some of the stuff, you know, my wife said to me a couple of years ago, anything in there that you haven't used in the last year can be chucked because you're not going to use it. But you know, there's always the odd thing which you think, that might come in use one day. So maybe I'm a semi-hoarder. I've got, for instance, I used to have a Toyota Camry, and I had the official Toyota roof bars, which I had bought separately, going back a good number of years now. Actually, I loved that car. I would consider getting another one, but too many cars at the moment. So I bought that, and because they're official Toyota, I didn't want to just chuck them out. They're probably worth something. They certainly were worth something. Now maybe not, because the Camry that shape is old now. But they're still sitting on a rack in that sort of storage area. I've got a roof box, which I do use. We use it almost every year when we go on vacation. And there's a bench saw, which I managed to cut my 2 fingers with when I built a porch for my parents. So I managed to do myself some damage with that. I was very lucky to go away from that with my fingers intact after stitching. My fingers and the nerves, more importantly. My son, who's 24 or 25 years old, he recently was preparing some food and he managed to cut his finger right through to the bone, straight through the nerve, straight through to the bone. And he went to hospital and he had to have a minor procedure to put it all back together. And he was told that, obviously when they sew him all up, they managed to put the nerves back together. When they sewed him all up, they said, you should be alright in a few hours. And obviously they give him plenty of local anesthetic and painkilling locally, which is very, very effective. And they said it'll probably wear off in maybe 6 or 8 hours. Take some painkillers after that to manage it. So he was, he's a 25-year-old, he's a big lad, and he thought, yeah, fine, no problem. He wasn't expecting anything serious. When that stuff wore off, he hit the roof. It was the middle of the night, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and hey smoke 2020, it was 2 or 3 in the morning. He woke up and he didn't know what to do with himself from the pain. The pain was just excruciating. It's probably a pain he'd never experienced before. Anyway, so he had to go to the chemist and get some super heavy duty painkillers, and that sorted him out. I don't know how I got to that. Yeah, so I've got a bench saw. So since I did my fingers in, I'm not sure if I've actually used it since then. Maybe I have once or twice, I'm not sure. But I think I need to get new blades for it, new circular blades. But I haven't really had much use for it, but I will do when I do the workshop. The bandsaw that I have is just not good enough for that. It's too much of a small tool. So I may have to resurrect that bench saw. And in terms of the website, Daniel, the website is up. It's just not updated. So you can see the website, lcsbriars.com. And you can see some of my pipes, but it's not current, so you can have a look at it. Hey, Captain Clench. Yeah, it's a nice chubby apple with some lovely grain. And it's really because I haven't really marketed these pipes well that they're still sitting on my desk. If any of you guys are interested in any of these pipes, anything which sells during this live show, I'll give a 20% discount, 20% to the price that I advertised in my recent video. As a special deal during the live show. If you want, I can put down all the pipes that are available. Maybe one will catch your fancy. If that's of interest, let me know and I'll do it. Just get I've got a printed price list on my screen somewhere. Actually, I'll just go to the other video. Where's the comments? Why can't I see? Why can't I see the price list? Ah, here we are. Okay, hi Mimo. Hang on. I'll put some pipes out. I don't really want this to become a sale video, but just in case anyone is interested, I'm happy to show them in more detail if you want. I think that's enough for now. So if anything takes your fancy, let me know. This one actually isn't on the price list. This is a chubby little pot with a smooth rim which goes around, sort of not quite a drip wax, but that kind of thing with a wavy line. But that's a Ciroc. Okay, so if you're interested, just give me a shout and I can talk about them. Otherwise, we can go back to what we were talking about before. Yeah, Donald Hughes talking about the workshop and that statement about anything which I haven't used in the last year. There's stuff in there which really I haven't used in many years, but some of it, it's also some of it sometimes has sentimental value, and that also makes it hard to chuck away some stuff sometimes. So what are you guys smoking tonight? Had a very enjoyable virtual meetup with the Virtual Pipe Club on YouTube. There's a channel called the Virtual Pipe Club. First time I've taken part. Very, very nice. Chris Morgan popped on, and I think he may even still be on. It's been going for about 3 or 4 hours already, that chat. I was on it for a couple of hours. And yeah, it's very, very enjoyable. There's really quite a plethora of virtual meetups going on. There's Zoom meetings. That one was a Zoom meeting, which was also HH Old Dark Fired for Pipe Tree. I'm trying to remember if I've smoked that. I've got an Orlik, I think it's Orlik Dark Strong maybe, that I've tried. And Boris was on there, yes, indeed. But it's the first time, I mean, I've seen it sort of after the fact, but I've never really joined it whilst it's live. And tonight was the first time, and it was really cool. They had Brian Levine was on, he was the guest. Very nice, Daniel. Very generous of Andrew to gift you a pipe. And Mastro Baraldi, very nice. McConnell Scottish Cake. I haven't smoked that in a while. I did have a tin of that in my garage and I brought it in the other day. It may be sitting here still. There we go. When is that from? 2018. Marlin cake. I haven't tried that, no. I'm not a big Birdie fan. There are some that I will smoke. The London blend from McBaron, I don't think they make it anymore. I had an old vintage tin of it, which was actually really nice. I've still got most of it. I think it was a 100-gram tin. I think I've still got most of it. Somewhere. Yeah, I think that the guy who was running it, I think his name was David, possibly. I'm not familiar with those guys. I mean, I've heard of Brian Levine and his Pipe Magazine blog or podcast, but again, I haven't really gotten into that. I know Eric was on there recently, Sea Smoke. So that was really enjoyable. Anyway, so he did suggest that I come on as a guest, which I'll be happy to do. He said he's going to get in touch, so we'll see. Washington Cobb, never heard of that. David Dorian, okay. The yellow one is this one, I assume you mean. And this was made from an Ebershorn block, so you'll have some cross grain going across there, and there's some there on the bottom, and then you'll have bird's eye on the sides. Some cross grain going across the top rim. There's a copper band. Drilling is dead center. 176. 176 was up at 155, so knock off 20% of that. So you're probably looking at around 125, something like that. If you want it, I'll work out a deal with you. Make me a reasonable offer around that figure. Lorenzo Titano and Pallid and Black Cherry. Trying to find something I can taste. Missouri Meerschaum, Washington Cobb, bent. Oh, is that one of the Missouri Meerschaum Cobbs? It's called a Washington. I'm not familiar. I don't do Cobbs really. I've only had one or two. Plus, I had the Dagner Cobb for a while, and I think I've still got one or two lying around, but I don't smoke them. Can you show the second one you put down with the yellow and black marble stem? That's this one here. It's a bent apple. $180 was on at 175, so 175 would be about 135, something like that, which is a steal. It's quite a hunk of briar, this one. It's a really nice rim as well. Again, drilled dead center. This one here, Daniel. This one actually I haven't priced up because it hasn't been up on. It wasn't up in that video. But I could let you have this. Do a special deal for you, Daniel. I can let you have this for £100. I think that's a decent price. So there is a particular tobacco which I've been very fortunate to get hold of, which I know there was a fuss made of it a while back, and I managed to get hold of a tin of it. I think it's really quite rare. It's a tobacco which was made here in the UK many years ago. It's called Markovich Black and White Smoking Mixture, which I don't really know all that much about it. Blended in England for the successors of Markovich of Piccadilly, which is a really interesting way to describe a company. So I assume that Markovich must have licensed out the blend or the branding or something like that. But I don't know how old it is. I'm going to guess it's probably about 50 or 60 years old, something like that. Which one are you talking about? 2020? Oh right, this one. Yeah, chances are, it depends how long you're talking about, but chances are it'll still be there. That one there you're talking about, right? I have smoked White Knight, but that was quite a long time ago. I don't remember what it was like, and I think I have a tin in my cellar somewhere. How did I get the lines on 207? 207. Which one is that? Oh, this one. I carved them. I carved these with a Dremel. This kind of carving was born out of my initial attempt at doing like a faux blast, sandblast. So the first time I did it with this pipe, this little apple that I made, and it really looked really good. I thought it had a really good effect, and it does look a bit like a blast. And I've kind of been sort of working from that. We're using slightly different ideas and different designs. So this one is more of a carve than a sandblast, than a rustication, obviously. More of a carved pipe, like a beehive kind of thing. I just think it looks great, and it just suits the shape of the pipe perfectly. And I suppose I could have gone further down and sort of stretched these out like the Castello ones, those ones. But the grain was just so pretty. It's a beautiful, perfectly placed cross grain. I just didn't want to lose that. So you got lovely cross grain there, very nicely contrasted, nice bird's eye on the side, and I just thought it would be a shame to destroy that. I mean, this briar here was also pretty good. I mean, there wasn't any flaws or anything like that I had to get rid of, if I recall. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't remember. Maybe there was something which I had to get past, maybe a sandpit or something. I can't put a hand on heart and say that there wasn't, but that's a perfectly legitimate way to treat it. As long as it doesn't go through and there's no flaw, like a critical flaw in the briar, it's not really an issue. Cheers, Piper 45. The cost of shipping to Canada would be £15. I have a standard international charge, which is £15 anywhere in the world, pretty much, and that's for tracked, signed for shipping. And if you don't have signed for, then it will be just tracked. I'm not sure. In Canada, sometimes it's slightly different, but it's £15. So you got to bank on £115 total cost. PayPal, friends and family. Right, where's my pipe? So this is a virtual pipe club that I was on earlier on. They're doing a virtual pipe club pipe. Which is going to be a limited edition Chris Morgan Bones pipe, a panelled pipe, which is being made, I believe. Hi, Mike. I believe it's being made specifically and only for the Virtual Pipe Club. And I think it's $49, which is a very, very good price. The only problem is that shipping overseas, they want $38 or $39, which is, to me, was just a bit ridiculous. Hey, David. I think the price, or maybe it was $39 for the pipe, or something like that, or $46. But the price of the shipping was almost identical to the price of the pipe. So either I have to get somebody in the States to buy it for me, or I'll just have to bite the bullet and buy it. I haven't made a decision yet. Thank you, David. It's progressing nicely, the pipe making. You know, they're still got huge amounts to learn, but I'm going at my own pace and doing my best to keep the price as much below £200 as I can. So as I said, any of these, if you saw my video a week or so ago, anybody who wants to buy or at least register an interest during the course of this video can have it at 20% off the price that I published in that video. $39 for the pipe and $38 for the shipping. Yeah, Boris, I may well go for it in the end. You know, if only just to show my support to the group. I think it's a very nice group. They've got some quality people on there. Do I have a favorite pipe in my collection that I've made? That's crazy. Yeah, it's USPS. I think that's a crazy price, Mike. It's a lot of money. I mean, I know prices have gone up. They've gone up here as well. I used to charge $12.50 international shipping, but it's gone up here. So it's gone up to. Yeah, I believe in Mike. I'm not saying that they're trying to make money on it. I just think it's a lot of money. You know, just down to pounds, shillings, and pence. So, a favourite pipe that I've made. It's not a pipe that I've kept. I would have to really look back. Some of them, a lot of times I'll make a pipe and I'll look back and think to myself, did I really make that pipe? You know, and it feels to me like it must have been like a one-off, you know, and sometimes I'll make it again. And sometimes it'll work out as well, sometimes it won't. But one of my recent most favourite pipes certainly has been that Danish style apple, which is similar to the one I've just kept for myself. So the one I made before this was a very similar style. I have to say this one is the proportions on this one is better, but the shank on the other one was a lot better in terms of the shaping. But the proportions on this one, the balance on this one is phenomenal. When I put it in my mouth, it's so well balanced, it almost feels like it's not there. And the reason for that is that because it's got such a thin joint there, so that weight there with the stem balances out against that, and this kind of area here, it kind of centers the weight, and it's just got a great balance. And I've learnt a lot from just this pipe. This is my most recent pipe that I've made, I think, or maybe I made this one after, but I'm really going to be looking at these dimensions and shaping a pipe this way. They won't always look great, I think. It's about I really want the pipes to be comfortable. So when people buy the pipes, I want them to be pipes that they'll reach for, because subliminally, even subconsciously, they might remember it was just a great smoke. They may not even realize why, but because it's so comfortable, I just want people to be able to reach for that pipe again. So you might have, for instance, this pipe here, which is, okay, it's unique, it's weird, but it's got awesome grain. But people are not going to reach for it every day. They'll reach for it for a special smoke, possibly, that kind of thing. But it may not reach for it on a regular basis. So that's what I'm really trying to fine-tune in the pipes that I'm making. I'm trying to be as introspective, if you like, self-critical, not in a negative way, but in a constructive way, and how I can improve the pipes, not just aesthetically, but also in terms of comfort and smokability. And this is something which just came out of the blue for me. And I always understood a bit about balance, and obviously not making something completely overbalanced, but this pipe just was a bit of a light bulb moment for me, and I have to try and incorporate that in future pipes. I won't be able to do that always, but I'll have to try. But I think that in terms of the overall, I haven't got it anymore. I shipped it off on Friday. But in terms of how the pipe looked, and how it kind of mimicked the Danish style of apple pipe, a la Everson's kind of style, I think it did very well. I was very, very, very pleased with how that worked out. They were asking some interesting questions tonight on that virtual pipe club. One of the things they were talking about was new pipe makers, which obviously was of interest to me. And when you've got people like Chris Morgan talking and Brian Levine, you've got to sit up and listen. And they were talking about that, for a while, a lot of the American carvers were getting into the business and just jumping up in price far too quickly, and they ended up either having to bring their prices down or going out of business. And he broke down, I know Mike has spoken about this in the past, but he broke down, they were looking at Jim Cook. He was charging whatever it was he was charging, and he at the time, I don't know how long ago he did this, he said it was a while back when he did this calculation, but he was making something like 70 pipes a year, around that kind of thing. He's very meticulous. He spends a lot of time on his pipes. And he was selling them at the time for maybe $300-400, something like that. Basically, he worked it out. He was making about $38,000 a year. And from that, he had to pay his materials, for his tools, for everything. And then he worked it out. Bottom line, he was making something like, he was coming away with something like $18,000. And that's really hard to believe. Somebody like Jim Cook, whose pipes are so sought after, okay, now they command better prices, but you tend to find that with some of the good pipe makers out there, their pipes sell, but they sell them at a regular price, but they get sold on immediately at a greater price. And, Brian Levine was saying that he could buy every single Jim Cook pipe up and immediately make $200 to $300 profit on it. So it's only really a few elite pipe makers that really make it in terms of being able to make a good, solid income from it, and do it full time. My observation on that was certainly it's a really good way to do something that you love, and if you're lucky, to supplement your income, but to rely on it as a sole income, I think it's only a very few elite that actually manage to do that. And it takes many years of learning, of practice, and building up a very solid reputation. There you go. Mike says that, I mean, you can trust Mike on that. Put it this way, you see very few pipe carvers riding around in flashy cars. Hey Brad, pipe 192. So this one was up on that video for £150. This one would have been a 2-star pipe approaching £190, but there was not entirely happy with this junction here. So with that borne in mind, and with my offer of 20% off the published price, so 150 minus 20%. Which is £30, so £120. Thank you, George. The Bent Dublin Reverse Bell. I'm not sure which one you mean. Is it this one you're talking about? Thank you, Brad. You know my email address. I'll set that one aside. That's a gorgeous pipe, a very good choice. Very Castello-esque smooth one. You got me, Mike. What, this one? No, that's not a Dublin. There's that one, it's a Dublin. There's that one, but it's not smooth. Hey, Eric. It's not this one, is it, Mike, you're talking about? Oh, that one. That's gone off to GQ Tobaccos, Mike. I don't know when he's going to be putting on his website. He keeps telling me that he's way behind on updating and taking photos of new pipes. So at the moment I can see he's been updating loads of Dunhill pipes and stuff like that. So hopefully mine will be up there soon. So that one, I've sold it to him. So we'll see what he puts it up at. Be interesting to see. This one? David? Or this one? Yeah, it's either 209 or 207. This one? 180. Okay, so this is just a large apple, quite a chunky pipe. Really, really nice grain. $180 was 175, so 20% off that. So you're looking at around 145, 150, something like that. I'm chunky too, David. This is my chunky pipe, the one that I smoke. Same stem. I only kept this one because it has a little flaw there, which you can just about see. A little sand pit there. So I decided to keep it. I must be honest, I am finding it hard to resist my own pipes. I just took this one for myself the other day. Been smoking Latakia blends in it. And I very nearly lit another one up. I can't remember which one it was. Well, I think this one's more of an egg shape. This one is more, it's a bit more round and rotund. It's more of an apple, I think. If it would be a bit taller, maybe it'd go to egg, but I think this one is reasonably apple shaped. It's all up for grabs, in terms of shaping. It's all in the eyes of the beholder. Some people call them apple eggs, some people call them a brandy glass. Some people will just say it's a billiard, which is what it is. It's a variation of a billiard. It's just, every person has their own, how it looks to them. So I would call this an apple. I would call that most definitely an apple. And this one here, it's more egg-shaped, but you could call it brandy, you could call it just a bent billiard. I do like this one as well. I like the way I put a ring in this, but made sure that the stain didn't go inside, which usually happens, just draws in, and I was very careful. And I just like the way it contrasts and cuts the pipe in half. I made it a very deep ring, and then just did like a zoning on the staining. It's got a fantastic cross grain. It's a really nice pipe, slightly forward canted, but a billiard essentially. You could call it a cutty, I guess. Mike, I have actually been meaning to email you because I do want to send some pipes your way. I don't know if you want me to just select some and send them, or do you want to select them? But I do need to get in touch with you. How come I don't make bulldog shapes? It's something that I do need to do. It's something that I want to do, but I've struggled with the diamond shank, to be perfectly honest with you. I have done some square shank pipes, some better than others. It's just something which I haven't yet put enough time into. That's the bottom line when it comes to diamond shanks, that kind of thing. Pictures and more. To answer your question, you need to go back a couple of videos, which I've addressed it there. And he's trying to imply that I don't have skill, hence I don't make them. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. But essentially, pictures and more. Each carver has their own, barometer, when it comes to how they value their time and the resulting pipes that they make. And, it's really completely up to the person what they charge for their pipes. If the pipes sell, good for them. If they don't, they'll soon adjust the pricing. And I've been very fortunate. Out of the 215 or 216 pipes that I've made, I've probably sold, I would estimate, probably 170 of those, 180 of those, which is pretty good going. So I do my best to keep my prices not too out of reach. Yep, they are more than some people who have been making pipes for many, many years. And if that's what you want, then buy those pipes. Thank you, Brad. It's just horses for courses. Everybody has their own particular taste and particular budget, and it's up to you to decide. You know, it's your money. You do with it what you will. Nobody's forcing you to buy anybody's pipes. Blake Marbriers, he's been making pipes for many, many years, for many decades, and Ian Walker's been making pipes for many years. And I get this kind of question from many people here in the UK. I've dealt with the question many times, and I understand the question, and I respect the question, hence why I'm dealing with it and why I'm talking to you about it. I could easily take offence by the question, but I don't, because it's a fair question. But the bottom line, it's, you know, people talk always to me about time. They say, you've been making pipes for just under 2 years, and these guys have been making pipes for 50 years. So what? What's time got to do with anything? It's got nothing to do with time. It's about the result, it's about the pipe, and it's about the quality of the pipe and the smokability of the pipe. I can tell you, hand on heart, that the majority of the people that buy my pipes have already bought more than one pipe from me. They've come back for more. That's got to mean something. I've got some customers who have got more than 10 of my pipes. That's got to mean something. And many, many of my customers have bought 2 or 3 pipes. People don't do that. If they buy a pipe and they're not happy with it, they wouldn't buy another one. It's simple as that. Going back to one of the topics that we were talking about earlier on the Virtual Pipe Club, that was one of the questions, and I made a point that, you know, nowadays, I felt that social media has a part to play. And I know, for instance, I think it was maybe Eric who's commented, or maybe it was Jordan, I can't remember which, but they commented on that it really helps the fact that I've got as many subscribers as I've got, and that's why I've been able to sell a lot of my pipes. That's a matter of publicizing your pipes. That doesn't improve the work. But I did take that point, and I actually made that point that you have to be nowadays social media savvy to get your pipes across, to get your brand known. It really helps if you've got a good presence on social media. But that only helps the first time you sell somebody a pipe. If the pipe's no good, they're not going to come back for more. And as I say, the majority, I don't know if I can say that hand on heart if it's a majority, but certainly, because I haven't counted it, but certainly a big percentage of my customers are repeat customers. And that always makes me very, very proud to know that somebody has had a pipe, been happy with it, and come back for more. That means a lot to me. So when you come to, I mean, for instance, you talk about, I mentioned this in the video that I made, is that, you know, people, you can ask somebody why does Ford charge a certain amount for their car, and Toyota will charge a different amount for their car. Or take, for instance, Hyundai, which is a relatively new company. Okay, they've been going now for a couple of decades, but when I was a kid, it was a brand new car. They still charge the price of a car. How do they do that? They've only just come into the business. It's a free market. People just sell what they want at the price that they want. If they're not got value for money, they won't sell. It's as simple as that. Thank you very much, Brad. Much appreciated. There you go. I've mentioned this many times. I've had this question asked in the UK TPC, which is a UK Facebook group, and they are very big devotees to Blake Marbriers and Ian Walker, British pipe makers, as am I. You know, I have spent a lot of money with Ian Walker. I bought a lot of his pipes, and I still do. No, that's okay. You didn't kill the conversation. I'm more than happy to discuss it. I've got nothing to hide. I'm not in any way feeling that I need to justify my prices. It's just that is what I charge, and if they sell, they sell. But I am still, nevertheless, conscious of the fact. So, for instance, tonight I've offered them at 20%, simply because, number one, people that join me on the live are regular supporters of my channel, and I feel that it's nice every so often to give something back. Plus, the times that we're in, it's harder for people to spend the money. So I think it's a nice thing to do, and it also means that I can sell some pipes, hopefully. So hopefully that's a win-win. So Daniel, in terms of the emblem, I do have a new pipe stamp on order from a company in the US that a lot of new pipe carvers have been ordering from. As you know, I had a pipe stamp which I just couldn't get to grips with, which I still have somewhere here, and I just couldn't use it successfully. So I'm trying my hand with another stamp maker. I actually just got a proof on Friday of the stamp, which looks very much like my Instagram. It's the logo on my Instagram page. So it's going to be a variation of that, and I hope that will arrive in the next few weeks. It's a bit of a slow process. They seem to be a very, very busy company. Every time I send an email, it takes a few weeks to get a response. And they're very polite and apologise, they're just very busy. Yeah, I think that's true with a lot of companies. I mean, I'm not wanting to criticise, but in my own personal experience with Peterson pipes, I've had a very poor experience. It could be I've just been unlucky, but okay, their prices are not like Dunhill, but yeah, I mean, in particular, I find that the special edition Dunhills, they're just crazy prices. I mean, they take a regular shell briar and put a silver decoration on it and charge £2,000 for it. But again, it's you know, collectors, if they're in that kind of financial bracket, they'll pay for that. You know. When it kind of rankles is that when you get something which is of no more value than another equally, like for instance, if you say, well, if I'm going to buy a Ferrari, for instance, against a Toyota Camry, let's take that as an example, they're both going to drive, they're both going to get you from A to B, but there is a clear difference, maybe not a commensurate difference. You know, maybe you'll pay $300,000-400,000 for a Ferrari. Maybe you might not think that there's $300,000-400,000 worth more than there is in the 30 or 40,000 Camry, but it's like that with pretty much everything. You know, here you've got a shop. There's a food store called Marks and Spencer's, a very traditional English store, which is, I think, struggling to survive, but that's besides the point. But you could go to your bog standard Tesco's and buy a pound of apples for whatever the price is. You'll go to Marks and Spencer's and pay more. The quality will be better, but it still will be an apple, you know, and you'll pay quite a bit more for that. People, you know, depending on their status, are prepared to pay that bit extra. And it's not like, you know, if I was charging £500 for a pipe, then, you know, nobody would buy them. It's that simple. Just nobody would buy them, and it would be ridiculous. What I'm doing is trying my best to keep my pipes at sub £200. The vast majority of them are around between 150 and 165, 170 pounds. That's where the vast majority are. I don't think that's so ridiculous. You know, if you buy a decent Northern Briars pipe, I mean, this pipe here, okay, there's a huge amount of ingenuity there, and it's unique. I paid over £200 for this pipe. Okay, yes, you could say that, well, he's been making pipes for 40 years, 50 years. Fine. You know, I think it's great that you can buy pipes at that range. I think if you're starting off in your own pipe collection, if you've just started smoking a pipe, Blakemars is a phenomenal place to go. You can get a great pipe for £40. How he does it, I don't know. But I've been to his workshop a couple of times, and he's got literally thousands and thousands of Stummels there. I don't know how he does it at that price, to be honest. I honestly don't. Yeah, but even if they're all cheaply bought blocks, the work that goes, yes, he does use a lot of molded stems, as do I, but still, I mean, I don't know if all of the Stummels, if they come partly shaped as well, maybe, I don't know, but he's got a huge amount of. I mean, if you have a look at some of my old videos, you can see that he's got bags there of shaped pipes, which. Maybe he's got, you know, one of these, not necessarily a freezing machine, but those molded chisels which cut the shape of the block, maybe, I don't know. I would find it hard to believe that if he's literally shaping every single bowl and charging £40, I just don't see how you can do that, because it's hardly worth doing. I mean, as you say, if he's talking about cheaply bought blocks, if he's got Briar, which he's paid £1 or two for each block, then maybe. And I don't know how many pipes you can buy now for £40. Maybe the prices have gone up. I don't know. But yes, I mean, he's very, very cheap. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't think he has a copying machine, but he's probably got one of those devices which. You know, you see some of the, I think it's Butts Shaquin. They've got a video out where you can see on the wall they've got these like round sort of, it looks almost like the flapping discs, where the blades are shaped, and it just does one pass over the briar and it's shaped. That's it. Maybe he's got that. I have no idea. Oh yeah, I mean, it's amazing value for money. He is the machine, yeah. Describe the difference between cigar flavor and pipe tobacco flavor. Well, I guess it would be very hard to make that distinction unless you know which cigar and which pipe tobacco. But there is a universal difference, I suppose. Well, I'll give it a go, but I don't think I'll do it justice. Pipe tobacco, I would say, is, if you can imagine the best, highest quality cigarette tobacco, multiply it by a few hundred, and then depending on the blend, you'll get certain flavors. If it's aromatic, you'll get the aromatic flavor. If it's different blends of Virginia, depending on how it's prepared, if it's stoved, if it's steamed, if it's got some Perique in there, or if it's got some Orientals, all of that will adjust and affect the flavor of that particular blend. And the same applies to cigars. In terms of a universal difference, I would say generally cigars are a more meaty, robust, have more depth and fullness of flavor. That's not to say that pipe tobacco isn't full and doesn't have depth. They do, of course they do, but it's in a kind of a different way. That's what it's. It's a really, really good question, because there is a very distinct difference, but it's really hard to describe. I really need Chad, because he's the man when it comes to understanding and making yourself understood, right? it's a very different experience. Cigars and pipe tobacco are very, very different. I've said this many times. When I've done a long day's work, maybe at a wedding or something like that, and I really just need something to really relax to, often I'll just turn to a cigar and I won't even bother trying a pipe, because a cigar just reaches those spots sometimes that a pipe for me just can't do it. Absolutely, Brad. You know, you've got it spot on. It's amazing how different they are, considering they both are a leaf, and they start with the same plant as well. Maybe grown differently with different seeds and all of that, but they are essentially tobacco. But that's a really good question. Imagine you've got somebody who's never smoked a pipe and never smoked a cigar. Try to explain to them the difference. Cigars are social, pipes are solitary. Maybe in practice, but for me they're not. I enjoy cigars and pipes mostly in a solitary fashion. Cigars are a more nicotine hit, probably, but you try inhaling a pipe and see how you fare. You're probably right, but they're both super high nicotine if you inhale. But I think you're probably right. If you don't inhale, then a cigar probably will give you a quicker nicotine hit than many pipe tobaccos. But there are some really heavy duty, like Old Joe Krantz and Haunted Bookshop and these kind of, which will give you a nicotine hit, a kick in the butt if you're not used to them. There are blends, yes. There are blends of pipe tobacco with cigar leaf in them. I personally have never found them to replicate the experience of smoking a cigar, but that's just me personally. I'm sure some people have smoked blends with cigar leaf and found that they do give them some kind of cigar-esque experience. But I've not yet found that myself. Yeah, a lot of the ropes and the pigtails and those kind of things from Gareth Hogarth will put you on your back. Yeah, absolutely true. Pictures and more. The twists. I think I'm going to leave this one out. I might just succumb to temptation on that one. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true, pictures and more. In actual fact, never mind the pipe, but just a tin of pipe tobacco, where you might get 15 or 20 bowls out of it, depending on how much you smoke at any one time, for the price of a cigar. You're absolutely right. It's cigars is in the UK certainly. There you go. Most of you beat me to it. In the UK, in Canada, the price of cigars is really quite restrictive. So if you're going to buy an average cigar here, and I'm not talking about a half Corona, a regular sized cigar, a Cuban cigar, is going to cost you say £20 to £25, and that's going to get you nearly 2 tins of tobacco here. And pipe tobacco is expensive here, but the average price of a 50-gram tin of tobacco is £15 on average. You can get a bit more, a bit less, but on average it's about £14-15. So you're almost at 2 tins of tobacco for the price of one cigar, and many cigars are much more than that. I've slowed down a lot on my cigar smoking, although I would say on average I still have maybe 3 to 4 a week, whereas I used to have sometimes 2 a day. But yeah, nubbing a cigar in a pipe is quite commonplace. I remember once on one of the Facebook groups where they do a pipe group, which they're very religiously pipe group, and they wouldn't allow anything else. And if you put a cigar on there, you get a warning that if you do it again, you get booted off. So every so often, I would put a cigar nub into a pipe, and they really couldn't do much about it because I was showing a pipe. But I just thought it was a bit of a laugh. Yeah, Mosin. I would say 90% of my cigars are not from here in the UK. I only buy individual cigars when I go to a cigar shop, either to smoke there or it's something which is new, a limited edition that I just want to do a video of. I want to just try it once, that kind of thing. Then I'll buy it and I'll have to pay full price. But I don't think I've ever bought a box of cigars here in the UK. Speaking of which, I'm going to have a cigar. You got me in the mood of a cigar now. And this black and white tin is an old discontinued Latakia mixture, black and white by Markovich. Apparently it's very rare. I haven't really seen much online about them. I order my cigars invariably. I have 2 or 3 places, but the main place that I order from is I Havanas. ihavanas.com. I don't think that's true, Pictures and More. I don't think that's true at all. It's not to say that some people don't do it for that reason. I'm sure they do, but that's not true in my opinion. And you might say that I'm one of those people, but I can tell you that I'm not. Whether you believe me or not is up to you. Hey Steph, how you doing? Hello, hello, hello. You got a migraine? Well, I actually had one for most of today. I've been for the last few days off caffeine. I've decided to have decaffeinated coffee for a few days, and I think I'm getting withdrawal. So once I got a bit of nicotine in me, it kind of abated a little bit, but especially in America, Captain Clench, you know, if you're in America, you can buy plenty premium cigars for not much money. It's not the same as here. It's a different story in America. You're in Canada, okay? You can buy perfectly good cigars for $6, $7, and then it becomes a different story. I'm a big advocate for Undercrown cigars. The Undercrown Maduro, Undercrown Shade, the Undercrown. What's the third one they made? Sungrown. Really, I think they're fantastic cigars for the money. Yeah, I mean, smaller Cubans, you're getting less cigar, obviously. But I used to, buy bigger cigars. But now I tend to stick to Robusto size. Maybe sometimes a bit smaller. So, for instance, what I call my favorite cigar, although I might have one left in my box. My favorite cigar is the H. Hartman Connoisseur Number 1, in terms of the regular lines, not the limited editions or regionals. I do smoke a lot of regional editions, I have to say, mostly from Spanish regional editions, because I can get them from a place in Spain. And when they come out, they're really cheap. This is from 2016 or 17, and when they came out, they were like €85 for 10. which is great value for money. It's eight works out about £7.50, £7, something like that, which is a steal here. It's a Robusta sized cigar, and I find the regionals always taste good, nearly always. Hey Ron, how you doing? Oliva cigars are also one of my favorite American cigars or New World cigars. In particular, the Milanos. I've got some Milanos here. I've got a half a dozen left, maybe. I like them. They're really good. I just picked up a 2018 one with a red band on it. I don't know what that's all about, but when I smoke it, I'll do a video. So this was the last, where did I buy these from? I think I bought these from GQ Tobaccos. So that's a 2017 Punch Limited Edition. That's a Partagas 2017. And this is the Oliva Serie V Milano, and it's got a band 2018 on it, which I've not seen before. So I wanted to try it. But I do like the Milanos. I think they're really good cigars. Lots of flavour. I think they're very impressive. And of course, the construction of New World cigars is just second to none. It beats Cuban cigars hands down. The Milano Serie V, yeah, the Serie V Milano, yeah, Mosin. Hey Jeff, how you doing? I hope you liked that pipe. It was difficult for me to choose which one to send you, but I thought that one was a nice one. It was very nicely balanced as well. It should smoke very, very well. Yeah, I agree with you, Mosin. I think it's better than it used to be in terms of the plugged cigars from Cuba. You know, if you buy a 25 box of connoisseur ones, 5 or 6 of them will be almost unsmokable, sometimes more, and that's really very disappointing. It is crazy, Pictures and More. You're absolutely right. You know, they've been doing it for so long. You know, they should have sorted it by now. And the New World cigars who have been doing it for less time, I mean, they've knocked it out of the park from the off. You just can't get a plugged cigar, a New World cigar. It's so rare. I've got a perfect draw tool. I personally, I've kind of slated it a little bit when I've talked about it a few times. It kind of helps, but in my opinion, and I mean this with every respect to the people who make it, because it's basically there to solve a problem. But if you've got a plugged cigar, it's not going to solve it. It might make it smokable, but it won't make that cigar a good cigar, and it won't make it a pleasant smoke, in my experience. I've used it many, many times. That's very sweet of you, Daniel. It's really nice of you. Not necessary. I know you're on a tight budget, so really don't feel the need to do that, but it's very sweet of you. I would find it hard to toss a cigar, I must be honest, and I will try to save it if I can. So this is the perfect draw. It's a well-made tool. It's well engineered. It's actually made very, very well. So you get this thin rod with very, very sharp serrations. They are very sharp, trust me. And you put that through the cigar, and you just go progressively deeper as much as you need. So you start off just putting it in a little bit. When you pull it out, if you look at the shape of the serrations, you can see it's pointed in that direction, and then when you pull, you've got the flat edges, and that pulls the leaf out with it. And essentially, you just got to keep poking it until you poke enough holes in the cigar to allow airflow. But it's just not right, basically, because what you're doing is usually, look, put it this way, it's the best of a bad situation. I'm not knocking it and saying it's a bad tool. All I'm saying is don't have high expectations that it's going to make your $50 cigar into a $50 cigar when it's plugged. It won't. That's why whenever I buy an individual cigar from a cigar shop, I'll ask them to cut the cap there and then I'll test the draw. If the draw's no good, I'll say it's plugged, please can I have another one. And most reputable cigar shops will just replace it for you. When you buy a box, you don't have that luxury because you can't test every single cigar. But yes, WV, yes, Jeff, it will save it being tossed most of the time. There are times when it just doesn't work. It can't perform miracles, no. There's two reasons why a cigar is going to be, in my experience, I'm no expert, but there's two reasons. One is that the rolling has been done much too tight. There's far too much tobacco in there, and it's just so tight that you can't draw air through it. And the other reason is that you've got a leaf which is folded over, and that's going to give you a plug. There's nothing around. There's no way about that unless you pierce that. Normally. So imagine this is a leaf of tobacco. So you roll it this way, and as long as you keep the roll, going in that fashion, so the air is always going to be able to go through. But if you watch the videos of them rolling cigars, they use lots of little bits of tobacco as well, and they bunch them all in there. And if they're not careful, you can have one which is folded horizontally, and essentially it's just a plug. There's nothing you can do about that. So if you pierce it, it will allow air through, but it won't save it. And the reason why it won't save it is because you're pulling all of that smoke through that one hole you've made with a perfect draw tool. You can do half a dozen holes, but essentially you're not drawing through the cigar, you're drawing through those couple of little holes. And so you're not getting the blend for a start. You're getting everything in a bottleneck, in a tiny hole, which is going to build up tar. It's going to heat, it's going to overheat, and you're just not going to get the blend, the flavors of the tobacco. And it's just a ruined experience. You can get a modicum of enjoyment from that cigar if you're lucky. I think it's worth it. Is it worth its money? I would probably say it is, actually, because at least, even if you save 2 or 3 cigars, it's paid for itself. I think they're about $40 or $50. So it probably is worth its money. But just have the right expectations is all I'm saying. Just don't expect it to make it a perfect cigar. And I'll tell you something else. You can't always tell where the blockage is. In my experience, a lot of times it's by the band. I don't know why that is, but a lot of times it's by the band. A suspicion that I've got is that it could be, although it's unlikely, but it could be that when they put the bands on, maybe they put too much glue on, that somehow gets absorbed into the leaf and hardens it. But it's probably not true. But that's the only thing I can think of, because it tends to be by the band. I don't know why. Oftentimes you'll feel knots and hard spots by the band. So if you have say you've got a blockage, for argument's sake, say you've got a blockage over here, if you use the perfect draw and you just muddle through and you do your best to cope with it, even if it hasn't got such a great flavour, once you get past that blockage, you've got your cigar back. So it's definitely worth persevering for a while at least, because you may get past the blockage. And sometimes as well, because of the heat, the cigar expands. Now what happens is that if your cigar is much too tightly rolled, what you might find is that when you first light the cigar, it feels okay, but as you get down the cigar, it's tightening up, because that heat is making the cigar expand and actually pushing the leaf against each other inside and making it even tighter. So that can happen sometimes, and sometimes it'll even split the wrapper as it expands. But sometimes it'll loosen up as well. As you smoke it, it softens from the heat, so you can manipulate it. You can just roll it between your thumb and forefinger gently, and just slowly, as you're smoking through, it will often just ease up as you're smoking it. That's a trick which I use sometimes, and it does work. Not always, it depends how bad it is. Yeah, the Ross is a nice cigar. The Ramon Allones specially selected, it's a nice cigar. But you really need to have them with a bit of age. Do they smoke with a higher humidity in your humidor? My humidor is roughly 69%. I don't really know the answer to that. I don't have sufficient experience to say that. I just know that that's what my humidor is at, and I like my cigars that way. Whether they would be better with higher or lower humidity, I don't know. If you're lucky, Mosen, then you'll get them with a couple of years on it. When I buy from I Havanas, sometimes you're in luck, sometimes not. When I first bought from I Havanas, I was lucky, and I got my first purchase, I think, was a box of Monte Cristo number 2, the Pyramides. And when I did the video of opening that box, I got the usual amount of naysayers saying it's fake and all that, which I know it wasn't. They tasted fantastic if they were fake. But I was lucky. They were, I can't remember how many years old, but it had some age on it, and they smoked fantastic. And that box really got me going on cigars, I have to be honest. And I smoked Monte Cristos then quite a long time. I smoked a lot of the Petit Robustos, the Petit number 2, which is basically a smaller Pyramides. I smoked those for a long time. I should really get some more. Yeah, I mean, certainly Robusta size gives you a good percentage chance of not having them plugged, because there's enough there. I do find that the thinner ring gauges tend to be more plugged because they're just cramming into a smaller space. You'd think that proportionally they'd use less tobacco, which I imagine they do, but for some reason they tend to be more plugged. Captain Clench, my preferred size of cigar is most definitely Robusto. I find that although Simplex, although I enjoy bigger cigars, you need to be able to dedicate the time to enjoy that. So for me, sometimes that will work. So if I'm at my desk here working on some photos or whatever, then that works. If I'm in my workshop, it doesn't, because I generally don't smoke when I'm actually working. So what I might do is between stages, if I've just finished on the lathe and I'm about to do some hand sanding, between those two stages I'll pick up a pipe and I'll smoke, or maybe a cigar. So I'll tend to smoke a cigar which is more of a run-of-the-mill kind of thing, which I can just keep relighting. If I'm doing a limited edition cigar, or if I'm doing a video, I want to be able to smoke it all the way through, because it does affect the flavor when you keep relighting them. Yeah, so Daniel, that's basically what I was talking about in terms of the thinner cigars. The Lanceros tend to be around the 38 to 40 ring gauge, and they tend to be, in my experience, certainly, they were the ones which were plugged more often, and I just don't buy them anymore. The ones that I did buy often was the Trinidad Fundadoras, but you know, a great cigar, but I don't buy them. I just don't. Trinidad is an expensive brand anyway. It's like Cohiba almost. Petit Corona was the wide cigar. You know, 42 ring gauge was considered to be a fat cigar 20-30 years ago. That was the cigar. Just the sizes have just increased big time in the last couple of decades. Yes, it is hard to roll a Lancero, and definitely needs more skill, for no question. Yeah, you want to be careful of those 99 boxes. You got to be careful about the turn of the century Cuban cigars, because around the turn just before the end of the century and the beginning 2000 2001, they had a lot of construction issues. A high percentage of those cigars are plugged, but they will taste great because of the age. I had a Hoyo de Monterrey double Corona, which has always been one of the highest rated cigars. Cigar Aficionado always rated them very high. I'm not saying necessarily that Cigar Aficionado are the Bible of cigar smoking, but they certainly rate it very, very high. Yeah, generally, if you're gonna buy from somewhere like JJ Fox's and you ask them to select a cigar for you, they will do that anyway. And they'll, in my experience, they'll certainly make sure, as best as they can, to feel and make sure that it hasn't got any knots in it or little twigs or anything like that. But that double Corona that I had, there's a video of it. I think I gave it a 10, which is, I've only done that once, I think, or twice. For me, that was probably the best cigar I've ever had. I can't remember how many years age it had on it, but it was fantastic. Really, really great. The Hoyo de Monterrey, generally, I find that they've got the most quintessential classic Cuban flavor. But it's got to be a good one. That's the thing. I find Hoyo de Monterrey has that great flavor. The Epicure number 2, is probably their most popular cigar. It's a Robusta sized cigar, but it's got a classic Cuban flavor. But unless they're right, they just come across as being very light and bland. So that's why I generally don't buy them. But if you can get them with age, yeah, for sure. Cheers, Captain Clench. Thanks for joining. Thank you for being with us. Are they still making the double Corona? I haven't heard otherwise, but I'm not an authority. I'd be surprised if they took that one out. It'd be silly if they did. Well, it's easy for me to say they'd be silly because it's a very popular cigar, but it may well not sell that much. At the end of the day, if they're not selling, they're not going to make them. Hey, XJ. But I do think that New World cigars are catching up in the flavor stakes if you're into Cuban cigars. If you're not into Cuban cigars, if you're in America and you don't have access to Cuban cigars, then you'll be sort of brought up, if you like, on New World cigars. So you'll have a much better appreciation for New World flavors. But when you're generally only smoking Cuban cigars and you taste New World cigars, it's sometimes difficult to enjoy them. And that's why, for me, when I find one that tastes good and almost leaning towards Cuban flavors, for me, those are really fantastic. So, excuse me, a classic example of that is the Davidoff Late Hour. I find that one to be a fantastic cigar. The only reason why I don't buy them is because I think Davidoff are priced ridiculously. I don't enjoy most of the Davidoff cigars. I find them to be too light, and I find them prone to turning bitter quite easily. But the Late Hour is a fantastic cigar. I had another cigar recently, I'm trying to remember what it was, where I said the wrapper had a fantastic, I'm sure I did a video of it, the wrapper had a fantastic aroma. The aroma was amazing, but the cigar itself, the flavor wasn't that great. Excuse me. Yeah, the final third in a lot of Cuban cigars are not going to be to everybody's taste. You got to bear in mind that you've had 2/3 of the cigar going through that final section. So it's going to be full of tar, full of smoke, full of, the burnt sort of flavors coming through it. So the thing to do with that is you've got to purge the cigar. You've got to blow through the cigar every so often as you're smoking down the first 2/3, and that will make the final third a little bit more enjoyable. But it will be more pokey in the final third. My favorite Cuban, Jeff, as I've said, in terms of the regular line cigars, I would say that my go-to would be A. Chapman Connoisseur number 1. But in terms of other cigars which taste better, but they're just not regular line, so I can't always get them, or they're too expensive. But certainly, if you give me a well-aged Cohiba Robusto, if somebody gave me the choice, I would definitely take the Cohiba. Not because it's a Cohiba and it's got that name, but because it's a fantastic cigar if it's got age. Cohibas, generally, you need a minimum of about 5 years for it to be a decent smoke. I'm not saying they're not good before that, but it also very much depends on the year. Some years the crops are better than others, and they taste better almost after a year even. But generally speaking, Cohibas need longer than other cigars to really reach their premium. The Magnum is a very nice range of cigars, but they're more expensive, so I don't buy them. But I smoked a hell of a lot of Magnum 50s. I smoked quite a lot of the 46s. The 46s, interestingly enough, they're actually fuller and stronger. I don't know about stronger, but certainly fuller in flavour than the other Magnums because of that narrower ring gauge. Either it's a more robust blend, or it's just because it's a narrow ring gauge. But I find the 46 to be quite a bit fuller than the others. The 50 is a very nice cigar. I find the Connoisseur one to be more flavourful. I find it to have more of a bouquet than the 50. I find the 50 to be a little bit blander, but it's still a nice cigar. It's got a nice sweetness, creaminess to it, certainly in the first third. And then you've got the Magnum 56, which was a limited edition. I think I've still got one left. That was a very nice smoke, but again, quite mild, sweet. But I tell you, the Half Corona is a great cigar. It's small. I think it's 3.5 inches, but it's 3.5 inches of goodness. It's a great cigar. I've been through a hell of a lot of those as well. I haven't got any at the moment, but they're very, very good. The truth of the matter is, when you're going about your normal life and you're not sitting at a desk and you've got an hour to smoke a cigar, the H. Chapman Half Corona is a great cigar. It's got good flavour. It's got very similar flavour profile to the Connoisseur number 1, and it's a really good smoke if you've only got, say, half an hour. But actually, a lot of the Half Coronas are really good. The Monte Cristo brought out the, what is it called, the Medio Corona, and Cohiba brought one out as well. They're all very good. Yeah, I do get a sweetness in them. It's not going to be the same sweetness as an aromatic pipe tobacco, but when you compare it to a peppery, more savoury cigar, there is sweetness there. If you smoke a Maduro cigar, you'll get some sweetness with that too. I often liken Maduro to Perique. It's not the same thing, but I often liken the experience to that, because Perique adds a little bit of fruity spiciness, but I find that it adds sweetness to it. And when you smoke a Maduro gives you also that a little bit of a sweeter, spicy, chocolatey kind of cheers tree. I find Maduro's adds that to it. I'm not really a Maduro smoker, but the Cohiba Maduros, I've tried them once or twice and did not enjoy them. You're right, it's not exactly sweet. It's not, if you want to have a sweet cigar, you get one of the, what are they called now? the ones which they dip. Also by Drew Estate, yeah, the Drew Estate ones. I once had somebody sent me some cigars, and they had dipped the cigars in some kind of sweet flavor, and it was disgusting. It was like smoking saccharine, but it's disgusting to me, but to somebody else it might be their perfect smoke. But that was proper sweet. It was artificial sweet. It wasn't nice. Acid, yeah. Well, I don't think it was an acid, but it was that idea, that kind of idea. Hi, Jason. Yeah, some people do that. Some people dip them in rum. But I just think that to take a Cuban cigar and do anything to it is kind of a little bit sacrilegious. You know, people, the farmers, they put so much into growing the stuff, you know, and to then take those flavors and, you know what, you do whatever works for you. If that's what works for you, then go for it. Right, well, gentlemen, I'm going to wish you all well. I've got a busy day tomorrow. So I'm going to say thank you to all of you for joining. Thank you, Mosen. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, XJ. Thank you, Tree, if you're still there. Thank you, Sea Smokes, Eric. Thank you, Boris. No problem, Mosen. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Captain Clench. Thank you, Daniel, of course. Thank you, Duke City Piper. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Brad. Double thank you to you, Brad. Dude Reviews, thank you. Thank you for joining. I wish you all well. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you on the next one.